The worst thing about our first story is just how goddamn thick some people can be. But before we get into that, if you're a fan of the outrageous, petty, and entitled behavior of some people delivered in story format, then you're in luck because that's all I do here, and I upload 2 to 3 times a day sometimes. So if that's right up your alley, then tell the like button that it's a guy, and when it corrects you, double down and get angry at it when it questions your judgment, because how dare it? Stupid like button. Also, please subscribe and turn on all notifications so you don't miss any of my daily uploads. Let's go. Posted by user Weird Dilemma. Titled, Am I the a-hole for arguing with the store clerk because they mistook me for a guy? So I, 19 female, am a cisgender female, but I've always enjoyed dressing in a typically masculine way. I hate wearing anything that emphasizes my body shape and sexualizes my breasts and hips, like a lot of women's clothes often do. I don't wear dresses or heels or whatever clothes you'd normally associate with femininity. You get the gist. My go-to outfits usually involve a pair of baggier sweatpants, a plain t-shirt, and sneakers. So I recently got my hair cut into a pixie though, and now people started mistaking me for a guy wherever I go. It's usually not a big deal since I just correct them. They apologize, we laugh it off, and move on. Today, however, as I was out shopping with my family, my mum walked up to a store clerk to ask her where the changing rooms were. The store clerk asks, "For you or for the young man?" And I immediately tell her I'm actually a girl. She shrugs it off, points us to the nearest changing rooms and goes, "Well, he can change in there then." And I correct her again. I thought, okay, maybe she didn't hear me at first, but she looked at me and said, okay this time. So she definitely heard me. After we're done, we go pay for our clothes, and the same store clerk says something along the lines of, "That'll be $30 for you and $65 for the boy, $95 in total." This is when I flipped my crap and told her, in a not so polite of a way, that I was a girl, and she was extremely rude for continuing to call me otherwise. She then rolled her eyes and argued back that if I looked and acted like a guy, I can't expect people to refer to me as a female. This went on for a few more minutes before me and my mum eventually left the store. I don't feel like I was in the wrong to get angry. I don't mind it when people misgender me by mistake and correct themselves after I tell them I'm a girl, but I feel like this woman did it to piss me off on purpose. Am I the a-hole? Your justification for this one is that you're getting angry over a trivial issue, but I truly and honestly feel that this is leagues above a trivial issue. This goes far beyond that. I know that dead naming and misgendering is a big problem and continues to be, and this was a third strike you're out kind of thing. You had to correct her 3 times and then she attacks you for correcting them? I can understand, being on their side, some customers are unreasonable. Some customers buy hundreds of dollars worth of things on coupons at stores and then ask you to refund them. I can understand when you'd lose your temper as a worker when these things happen. But this is not on that scale. This worker isn't justified in their anger at you. You've actually done nothing to them to warrant that reaction. This worker is so far up their ass saying, "Oh, if you look and act like a guy, you can't expect people to refer to you as a female." Yes, you can. Yes, you can. You can absolutely look and act like a guy and still be female, and still have people refer to you as female. Opie, you were not in the wrong to get angry, and don't feel like you're in the wrong to get angry here. This person is just being a complete asshole for nothing. So, not the a-hole for this one. I don't know what their problem is. Now in the comments, Kitten Wolf Mage says, "Not the a-hole. Report her. She's either reading you as a trans woman and being dogmatically transphobic, or just being deliberately contrary and combative because you dared correct her. Both of which are deserving of reprisal." 100%. This bigot thought she was humiliating a trans woman when she was, in actuality, harassing another cis woman, which means she was so thirsty for the opportunity to humiliate a trans woman, she couldn't even wait until she actually encountered one. What a small and hateful person. Or just a garden variety sexist, because women can be sexist. The whole bit about wanting to look like a boy really sticks out, which implies she's trying to punish OP for not being feminine enough. And no, the clerk is the a-hole. Sounds like someone was trying to make a political statement. Yes, it was deliberately antagonistic. OP did nothing to provoke that. Not the a-hole, and I would complain to the company. It sounds like she thought you were trans and was trying to make a crappy point. Either way, she's a huge a-hole and needs to mind her own business. And if someone mistakes you for another gender, that's no big deal. What is a big deal is to treat you like this after you've mentioned it. Making the mistake? Easy. Continuing to misgender someone? Not acceptable. Not the a-hole. And our next post is by user AshamedVideo1431, titled, "Am I the a-hole for telling my husband that I'm going to take our son for his doctor follow-up and not his cousin's funeral?" So my husband's cousin died last Thursday, and they have the funeral scheduled for Wednesday this week. Our son was very ill this last Friday and was gasping for air. He's only 6 months old, so I took him to the ER. They told me he had croup, and to keep an eye on him and to make an appointment for this week because a baby his age can get serious complications from this. I called his doctor, who was exceptionally busy this week, and only had one appointment for Wednesday at noon, which is right when the funeral is. I told my husband that I would go to the wake, but unfortunately I have to take our son to the doctor because he could get to feeling worse. My husband is very upset with me and said that I should reschedule the doctor's appointment until next week, which I don't feel comfortable doing. He thinks I'm an a-hole for not going and saying I just don't want to go and he needs me for comfort. Am I the a-hole? Edit to add, husband is having an extremely hard time with this. They grew up together as he was an only child and was always with his cousin. They were more like brothers and he's really struggling with his sudden death. He had a heart attack at 42. Emotionally, he's a mess. He loves our son though, as he stayed at the ER with us and didn't leave his side. He just wanted me to change the appointment to a time not during the funeral, not that he didn't care about our little boy's well-being. I'm working on getting an appointment on Thursday now, as they called and said they could squeeze him in for an 8 a.m. visit, which I'm fine with. And I never intended to take the baby with me to the funeral or wake, as he would probably cry during the service, and I had planned on him staying with my brother for a few hours. Thank you all. So I guess the crux of the matter here is that you could reschedule for next week so it doesn't interfere with the funeral, but he does have croup. And especially with 6-month-old babies and viral infections, you genuinely want to get that sorted sooner than later, at least from what I've seen out there. You also mentioned further down that your family thinks that you're being overprotective and causing your husband more grief. I'm sorry, but wouldn't it cause even more grief if your 6-month-old child died of a viral infection? A preventable one at that, by the sounds of it. It's understandable that your husband is grieving and going through a hard time right now, and definitely he's going to lash out sometimes because he's not coping, he's not thinking rationally. I respect that. And I think I've said it in the past before that grief isn't always an excuse for saying these things. You know, it's a reason for saying it, but it doesn't absolve you of being an a-hole. This is very much another rock and a hard place situation. You can't do both, and doing one or the other will cause harm either way. But for the greater good, you need that baby to go see that doctor. And it's good that you did find an appointment on Thursday because they were able to squeeze that in. And I'm glad that you're fine with it, and I'm glad that it's going to work out for your baby. The fact still remains his actions were unacceptable here in my opinion. Regardless of the grief, I'm gonna have to go with not the a-hole, OP. Now in the comments, of Muses and Kings says, "Not the a-hole. Your living son's health takes priority over an already deceased relative's funeral." Agreed. Not the a-hole at all. What would the family like, another funeral? You have a baby who is ill in the midst of a pandemic. You literally cannot take any chances. You always take the earliest available appointment. That's just common sense. Understandably, your husband is grieving, but he also has a family to take care of. Living take priority over already deceased. Not the a-hole. A 6-month-old with a breathing problem probably shouldn't be around a crowd when there's a pandemic anyway. You aren't abandoning your husband. He's an adult. He is grieving, but he needs to be more understanding. Not to be super harsh, but I'm guessing he wouldn't want to be attending his son's funeral because he skipped his doctor's appointment. A 6-month-old kid doesn't belong at a wake, period. It's a solemn time. Ordinarily, I would say leave the kid with a sitter, but in this case, she should definitely be taking baby to the doctor, not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. What parent doesn't care about the health of their child? He's an adult. He can attend the funeral by himself. Exactly, and he has perfectly valid reasons for going alone. He can say, my son is facing some serious respiratory issues and had to see the doctor. Any normal human being would understand. How strange. Not the a-hole. Croup is usually cleared up pretty quickly these days with steroids. Way better next day, and yes, they can get complications and it can rebound, but advice we've been discharged with is to monitor and bring back if anything changes. Wouldn't typically bring a baby to a funeral, but it depends on what's normal for the family. No a-holes here. Your husband's cousin died, he's grieving, and is going to be more emotionally reactive for some time. You don't have that same connection, and you have your kid as your number one priority. I don't think either of you are an a-hole. I think you're both in a crappy situation that sucks, and you're having to make hard decisions that don't have easy answers. Sometimes a week is the difference between fixing something early and being in the ICU. I don't think you're wrong for taking care of your son. I don't think your husband is wrong for deeply wanting you and his son present during a hard time of grieving for him. If you want a kind of suggestion, I'd recommend trying to get each other on the same page about how and why you're feeling like you do. I'm surprised I had to scroll this far down to find something that wasn't not the a-hole. Guys, the guy is obviously grieving. He's upset. He's not threatening divorce over this, and I'm sure a month from now he'll understand why things had to shake out the way they did. Just because he wants support doesn't mean he wants the baby to die too. He's not an a-hole, I'm sure. Our next post is by user No Soda Throwaway, titled, Am I the a-hole for refusing to buy my girlfriend any more diet soda because she won't get a job? So I, 26 male, have been with my girlfriend, 27 female, for over 3 years. We've been living together for almost 2 years of that time. Not long after that, she left her job. This was before the pandemic, so it had nothing to do with that. She just couldn't deal with her boss anymore. I supported her leaving the job because her boss really was mistreating her. I do okay financially, but I'm not making a ton of money in my career yet. But I thought she'd hit the pavement right away and start looking for something else. Well, that didn't happen. For the first few days, she just hung around the apartment. After those few days, I asked her if she was going to start looking for something else. She answered, "Really? I just quit my job. Can you just give me a week or two to catch my breath?" And after that, whenever I asked, she began to cite anxiety and depression as the reason that she couldn't look or take a job. While I've tried to be supportive and understanding, it's been hard as we've been more or less living paycheck to paycheck, while I've often felt anxious and depressed myself, but having had no choice but to go to work. Once the pandemic hit, she tried to get relief, but was denied because she'd already been out of work too long, and her unemployment had nothing to do with the pandemic. She then began to use the pandemic as an excuse to why she couldn't work. This brings us to a few days ago. I went to do some grocery shopping, and my girlfriend asked me to pick up a case of Diet Dr. Pepper for her. She's addicted to the stuff. To her credit, she doesn't drink or smoke or eat much junk food at all. Diet Dr. Pepper is basically her only vice. But she'll easily drink 6 to 7 cans of it in a day. Anyway, I refused to buy it for her. I told her on the way out the door, "Nope, that's a luxury item. I'm not paying for that." Long story short, when I got home without the Diet Dr. Pepper, we got into a huge argument. She accused me of financially controlling her, and I told her that from now on, I would only provide for her completely basic needs, but that if she wanted any treats beyond that, she'd need to get a job and pay for them herself. Am I the a-hole? I can see how you might feel guilty because, yeah, this was a bit passive-aggressive going into actually aggressive territory. And I'm sure you not giving her any warning in advance that you'd be cutting her off. Maybe you caught her by surprise here and you feel bad for surprising her. But you did tell her, going out the door, that I'm not buying this. She can't be mad when you come home and there is no Diet Dr. Pepper ready to go. Also, that's a kind of a cop-out excuse you're giving for her, saying that, oh, she's not addicted to drinking or smoking or eating junk food. Her only vice is drinking 6 to 7 cans of soda a day. Can you see why there's such an epidemic of obesity? That is literal poison in a can, drinking that much a day. That is not moderation, that is far past it. And you've been enabling that addiction for buying it for her for so long. I think there is inherently a problem with that. I don't buy into the fact that she's accusing you of financially controlling her. If anything, she's doing that to you, and she's taking you for a ride. The majority of this relationship has been her unemployed, living off of you. And what are you getting in return for this? She might have started as a catch, a high-value partner, but through her actions over this pandemic and now when jobs are coming back online, she's showing herself to be low-value, manipulative, and uncaring. Are these attractive qualities in a partner that you want to continue to enable and fund financially? Someone that will turn your generosity and kindness back onto you and gaslight you for these issues? Is that really someone you want in your life? I understand that this one instance is what you're asking for a judgment on, and for this one, no, you're not the a-hole for refusing to buy your girlfriend any more diet soda, but this one is just the tip of the iceberg. Really ask yourself if you see a future with this person, because to me, I would be out that door. You're only 3 years deep. You don't have to do the sunk cost fallacy here. You can hang up your coat, you can leave. She's giving you a perfect reason to leave if you don't see this relationship panning out. But ultimately, if you're going to be there and you're going to help her change and be a better person, I respect that. But my judgment for this one is not the a-hole. Now in the comments, Rolling Katamari says, not the a-hole. She's taking advantage of you. She's probably hoping you'll take care of her, and maybe your kids forever. You do not want to be in a relationship with a lazy person. If she is actually depressed, then she needs professional help. This, and to add to it, be careful, OP, that she doesn't accidentally get pregnant. This isn't about the Diet Dr. Pepper. This is a cry for help that you're paying for a grown woman to sit on her ass all day. She's financially abusing you by taking your kindness for granted for 2 years now. She shouldn't have left her old job without a new one. You now understandably resent her, not the a-hole. And to reply to that, she shouldn't have left her job without a new one? I don't necessarily agree. I think it depends on your situation. I would never have left my old job without my current one lined up because I have a child and rent payments to consider. My partner, not living together at the time, left work without a job lined up because he simply couldn't take their BS for another second. It wasn't planned, but just like OP's girlfriend, it was affecting his mental health too much to stay. However, he's the kind of person who's never had trouble finding work. He's pretty employable and actually bothers to look for jobs, so it wasn't an issue for him. Not the a-hole. Lol, financially controlling her is such garbage. Job searching sucks, but it sounds like she's absolutely done nothing to try. She needs to get a job and stop mooching if she wants to be financially independent. Not the a-hole. You're paying all the bills? Damn, I would kick her out and let her live in the real world. Hopefully she doesn't know how difficult it can be to kick someone out. Hell, you can go to the court and say that you've been accustomed to a lifestyle, and that person agreed by supporting you in that lifestyle. It is literally insane what people can do to you if you financially support them. Not the a-hole. You're doing more than enough by providing for her needs. You're living paycheck to paycheck, and that means cutting unnecessary spending. She can cite anxiety and depression all she wants, but she needs to stop using them as a crutch if she actually wants to overcome them. Our next post is by user Soft Blush, titled, Am I the a-hole for wanting to give my daughter an Irish name that the whole family hates? Hi all. My partner and I want to try for a baby, and we have 2 concrete names picked out. We decided not to tell anyone the names until our baby was born and already had it on the birth certificate, because what can they see at that point? But my mum found my list of girls' names and spread our top choice around the whole family, who hates it. My partner is Irish, and we both love the name Saoirse. There's a famous actress with the same name, so we didn't think that it would be a huge deal. My mum has flat out told me that if I have a daughter, she won't call her by her given name and will instead call her Sushi. My entire family jumped on board with this and has been relentlessly harassing me about the name. Honestly, I know I shouldn't stress too much, as there's a 50-50 chance I'll have a baby boy anyway, but the discourse around the name has really started to aggravate me, and the idea that my kid is going to be bullied by my whole family because she has an Irish name is getting under my skin. The last time she asked me if I'd gotten a positive pregnancy test, I said no, and she goes, "Well, let's hope it's not a girl because she's Sushi to me." I flat out told my mother I don't care for her opinion, as she has crap taste in names anyway. She asked what that meant, and I said I've always hated my own name, and I should have the ability to choose one for my child, just like she did. She was extremely hurt that I didn't like my name, and the general consensus is I'm a jerk for saying so. My husband's family, of course, has no problem with Saoirse. They're Irish. Am I the a-hole for wanting to give a child a phonetically Irish name, and for telling my mum off? Edit. Thank you so much. I'm open to rethinking names. If my mother had respectfully given reasons for disliking Saoirse, I'd have taken those reasons into account. So I very much appreciate people sharing their thoughts. So I can see why you would feel like an asshole in this situation because you did snap and you did insult your mum. But you say further down that she's American. You're surrounded by Americans and, they don't like this Irish name. It's not something that's actually hard to pronounce, it's just hard to read and put two and two together because phonetically it's Irish. I can see how that would be challenging for all of 2 seconds until someone tells you how to say the name. And going by your edit, you were absolutely correct. If your mother had respectfully given reasons for disliking it, maybe you would have taken that into account. Crazy how kindness goes a long way when respecting baby names or anything in families like this. And sure, we can turn that one back onto you and say, hey, you weren't so kind when you were dissing your mother for the name that she gave you. But I retort here and say, I'm not going to be kind to someone that's just pissed all over what I want to do in life. Those actions are not deserving of kindness in return. And then to just dogpile on you and be like, you know what, if it's a girl, that kid's screwed. Doesn't matter if you call it Saoirse or not, that's just one of the many names that you were thinking of. We're just going to call the kid Sushi. I'm sure that child will not grow up with any insecurities and will be completely comfortable with their identity after everyone in their family mocks them with the name Sushi just for the crime of being born. It appears that they're jumping the gun to bully you into a more traditionally American name, and that's unacceptable. There's also the other argument that this kid is going to be bullied in school for that name, and honestly, after the way that OP's mother has carried on, and their immediate family is carrying on, I see that as being an absolute reality now. It appears that child would have no support, would be bullied by the family, would be bullied by school, so that could be a genuine reason not to name them Saoirse. But I don't think that is a genuine excuse in this case. I think everyone's just assholes around you. I'm gonna have to go with not the a-hole for this one. I've talked long enough, I'm sorry. My judgment is not the a-hole. Now in the comments, the View221 says, not the a-hole. I'd just tell her if she calls her Sushi, it'll be the last time she sees her to call her by anything. The irony of her being hurt that you don't like your name, lol. Families can be such assholes. Also say to her, if you insist on calling my daughter Sushi, I'll insist on calling you the grandma we don't see. That's one brutal ultimatum if I've ever read any. Well, bullying a child about her name is pretty brutal too, so I'd say that it was an appropriate ultimatum, all things considered. Not to mention the bullying of OP so they get their way in regards to the name. Basically, your future child isn't yours, OP, it belongs to us. You and your child are extensions of us, and you will comply with what we want. Not the a-hole. Anyone who doesn't want to call your child by the name you choose can call your child the child we never see because we disrespected the parents. And why did your mother have the opportunity to find your list? She doesn't respect you at all. And OP replies, partially my fault. I asked her to pull up the grocery list on my notes app while I was driving, and she saw baby names and clicked. No then, that's her fault. She's invading your privacy purposefully. She didn't have to click on it, she chose to. That's her invading OP's privacy all on her own. Not the a-hole. Their opinion doesn't matter. Tell them to F right off. If they want a specific name, tell them they need to have their own kid. Also, protect your damn kid. If your mother has already said before conception that your child will be bullied, let her know that she will not be in that child's life and stick to your guns about it. You literally owe that to your child, and anything less than protecting your child from adults, hell-bent on berating and belittling your offspring, would, in my opinion, make you a bad parent. Not the a-hole. Your mum can get on board or go jump in a lake. However, make sure you know how you want to pronounce it. I believe that Saoirse Ronan does not pronounce it the traditional Irish way. I watched an interview in which she said that she pronounces it Saoirse, but the traditional Irish is Saoirse. Some Irish names are pronounced differently in different areas of Ireland. Each of the 4 provinces have a different dialect/flavour of Irish, and pronunciations of some words vary. Saoirse is still the majority pronunciation, but one of my kids' friends from preschool calls herself Saoirse, so that variation might be gaining popularity. Yup, it was always pronounced Saoirse in Belfast when I was growing up there. Partly because the Ulster dialect of Irish has a very distinct accent and is split along Catholic and Protestant lines too. Also, it was a name associated with a political movement for prisoners of war status to reinstated during the conflict for members of prescribed organizations after Thatcher stripped it away, leading to the hunger strikes and beyond, so it was highly politicized to the point of shock value as an actual name. So people from the north are locked in a pronunciation debate about the name that would drive you nuts. Such a pity, as it's a lovely name, and Saoirse Ronan has done so much to counter the bias that Irish names are stupid, or spelled funny, or that jazz that people have spouted for years. Now, if you really want to cause a name war, call your daughter Anya, and debate if the father goes on the A or the E. Will she be Anya or Onya? Or will everyone think it's Annie anyway? I'm so glad that I didn't have to think about any of this while I spent a few months living in Belfast. All I had to deal with was this Polish guy that I was living with named Cesar. He would get very angry at me for leaving the water heater turned on all the time, and I didn't realize that this was a thing because I'm not used to water heaters. In Australia, our water comes preheated, god damn it. You weird Irish people with your switches that turn on the water heater and your noisy ass showers. So weird living over there, but I'd go back any day of the week. Anyway, thanks for listening, guys. Alright guys, that's the end of the video. Friendly reminder that I'm now posting daily on my second channel, Markee 2. If you want to laugh at memes with me, link is down in the description below. On phone, you just click that little arrow underneath the video. I also want to say thank you to all my channel members and Patreon subscribers. Your names are currently floating down the screen here, and I love to see all of you guys. Thank you for joining me on this journey. Thank you for supporting me. I really appreciate it. If you see yourself on screen, I want you to give yourself a big pat on the back for being amazing as always, and thank you for supporting me again. I do hope that you guys have a good day, night, sleep, whatever it is you're up to. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.